big middle room I didn't fully explore. That should be where I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically, because this is the part with the puppet, like in the base game, you can technically either go down or go...
Use the bathroom.
You can technically either go down or go...
Damn it! Damn it! I need to be.
Damn it, I don't remember where... Wait, it should be the room with the bells. You guys, while I'm running around lost and confused, I get the idea of these modes taking away the RPG elements, which be because of that, money does not exist in this mode, because like if I pause, it is just a regular pause. There's no equipment screen, so because there's no equipment screen, there's no money, so all the doors that need money, they all just open, but there aren't like heart or magic increases, and the game doesn't save your map completion, and because there aren't any like weapons or armor or anything to oh wait, I'm pretty sure it's this way. This is where I need to go. So then that kid's going to quickly run and drop the save. Because there's no armor or equipment or anything, exploring the map in Julius, other than fighting like the boss, is just to say you did. Exploring the map is rather pointless. And I do get the idea behind that, because of wanting to... Yeah, I'm in the right room now. Like, I kind of get the idea behind that and wanting to make it different, but I feel like, and it's the reason I don't like a Julius mode, I feel like I didn't like Julius mode when I first played it, and it's why I'm trying to be a bit slower and not immediately just kind of rush to everything, and why I'm stopping to fight every enemy, because the funny thing is I'm not having as much of the level issue as I had when I first played it, so I guess I might have been slightly under level, but if I was, that's one of those this is the type of game where this is the type of a game where like one or two stat differences can apparently make a world of difference. I don't know how I feel about that, which is funny because when I first played, I actually did sit down to grind at some point, and I did not notice like a difference in my stats. I literally sat down to grind when I was, funny enough, I was stuck on Gurgoth, because Gurgoth will always be a motherfucker. And I spent a short time grinding. I think I grinded like 1 or 2 levels, and I didn't notice a difference in stats after those 1 or 2 levels, so I do wonder how Julia's stats increase. Well, technically we everyone's stats. I know there are plenty of ROM hacks that do this type of shit, but like but part of me does wish that maybe, like, with the characters, maybe you don't find and that I believe I think you do need to beat every boss, or if not every boss, it's at least actually I can't really think of a... Death is beyond that in the underground area, so yeah, I think you do need to beat every boss for Julius? I'm not sure, because that's one of those I just did that anyway. You know, I do there is that part of it that's kind of west, like I said. Maybe you don't find like weapons or anything, but maybe armor, because due to not having like any of the RPG mechanics at all, the Julius mode, it is substantially, I wouldn't say substantially, but it is more difficult, because, like, you can't, you know, just drip feed. You can't just drip feed yourself healing. The only way to heal is Yoko, whose basic attack actually, like, will actually deal a tiny, like, bit of, you know, like, I'm probably going to die when wanting to show this off. Yeah, like, there was that +4, yeah, that's healing. Her basic attack, be it that, or her or her fucking stripper kick, will actually heal, except the healing is so unsubstantial you can't rely on it. And I have to question why did they give Yoko, why did they give her the healing? Why not give that to Alucard, the character who is a fucking vampire? Or vampire, I guess, but the character who can canonically suck blood, because that's what Dark Metamorphosis in Symphony is. It makes all of your, like, it makes all of your attacks that would cause blood, like the werewolf bleeding right there, it makes all of those attacks heal you. So it's like, this is literally a skill Alucard has. Why did you not give him the blood-sucking skill? Also, feel it would have, like, that would have not only made sense, that would have given Alucard a difference from a Julius, because as it stands, other than, I forgot about that enemy. As it stands, other than him having, like, dealing slashing damage, iframes, he doesn't really have a difference from... Oh, come on. Motherfucker. If all three of the orbs actually do... If they all do lock on to something, they're actually pretty useful, all things considered. But that would track, because the lightning was the strongest move for Sypha. That was her strongest sub-weapon in Castlevania 3. And now we have Gurgoth, which is a motherfucker. I'm trying to remember, I think Gurgoth is weak to slashing. It's weak to slashing in the base game, but I don't know if that tracks for Julius mode. I assume it would. I can actually go check that right quick. Yeah, slash and pierce. And because of how fat Gurgoth is, the... Motherfucker, I hate this fight. So it was like 2 hits of 31, except the funny thing is that... Damn it. Wrong way. Oh wait, no, I forgot. Yeah, that's... Because of how fucking fat he... Mm. Oh, damn it. Motherfucker. Damn it! There's up the second phase, too. Oh, that is fucking tight. Damn it. I think that's why I don't all like this fight, because he is a big motherfucker. It's coming up out of the ground as a hitbox, so...
What is that? Where I need to be? You gotta go, you gotta go.
Fuck you.
To finish the one point though, because it's what I was going to say. I'm not saying Nintendo wasn't involved in the whole Blockbuster thing or any other dumb shit they did in America related to the rental market, but I am so tired of this narrative.
Damn it, I don't want to use rewind, but fuck her off. Fuck this fight.
I'm so tired of this narrative. Like, Nintendo has always been greedy because Nintendo is usually technically...
To talk about the game for a minute, in both Julius mode and the regular game, I would honestly say when you get the split but to go fight Gurgoth and Rahab, go fight Rahab first. You need the extra levels for that motherfucker.
Back to my point. Yes, Nintendo was usually the main people that were the ones doing the main filing for court cases. Yes, it is technically Nintendo versus Blockbuster, but what people don't seem to get, even if it's Nintendo versus Blockbuster, Nintendo had a lot of backing from other people. I'm not saying Nintendo didn't do anything, because they did, but I just hate this modern sort of meta-narrative, like Nintendo or the greedy ones, and that no other video game company did anything else. Because Nintendo was often supported. But in this modern world, we have to act like Nintendo were the only ones that were greedy in the 80s, and not a single other video game company in the 80s were greedy at all. When that's not a thing. Nintendo had plenty of backing. Now, and again, I'm not saying Nintendo didn't do these things. They just weren't alone.
Yeah, because every industry has hated people getting their shit for free. It's like, something I find really funny was the whole, like, you know, Nintendo and greed thing, and no one ever talks about the shit Microsoft and Sony do. One, I don't remember the full story, and I will be fair and say, without fully remembering what it was, I might be misrepresenting it a very tiny amount, so it might not be as bad, but Microsoft literally did this, if I remember correctly, Microsoft literally did this, like, lobbying thing so that they, like, wouldn't have to pay people. I don't remember what it was, so they wouldn't have to pay people for, but my point is they literally tried to change a law so something would not apply to them. And Sony actually has a history of shitty, like, music practices and shit, yet no one ever brings that shit up. It's funny to see no one ever brings like any of this shit up when shitting on Sony or Microsoft.
Or, like, if we want to, you know, talk about something that Sony did, because people, you know, often, like, never think about these things. A good example of nonsense Sony did because this is basically true, where, like, Sony helped develop, like, CDs and stuff.
Sony did a bunch of shitty stuff with. I said that they did a bunch of shitty stuff with the CD and, like, music licensing and stuff.
Licensing, but remember, licensing. Yes, I wasn't going to talk about licensing. I was going to talk about Sony being petty children, because them being petty children is basically, when you explain it this way, what would lead to the creation of the Blu-ray disc. Sony helped create the CD, and CDs as a technology were super, like, open. I gotta learn this word. CDs as a technology were super open. Because they are, because when you think about how easy it is to put stuff on a blank CD, it's not like CDs didn't have copy protection and stuff, but CDs as a technology were, like, super open and reasonable and not designed by crazy people. And Sony had kind of realized, oh, we fucked up pretty hard, and Sony basically hated that they helped create the CD because they didn't like how free and usable CDs were. And since DVD technology was based off CDs, that would lead to sort of a similar problem where even with DVDs also having, like, some better copy protection, Sony basically still didn't really like DVDs either. And they were, like, so big mad at CDs being open and available. And even DVDs were pretty hated by Sony, where they tried their damnedest. First of all, in the CD era, they tried to create, I forget what it was called, but they had a, like, different format they tried to create, because they were like, oh, we can't have people using CDs and enjoying these. We fucked up. CDs are too free. We've given people too much freedom. CDs just let you copy things, and you can put things on CDs, and this is bullshit. Blank CDs should never have happened. It's like, fuck this. I forget the format they tried to create, because they didn't like the freedom that CDs offered. And DVDs also pissed Sony off for a similar reason. Blu-ray was literally Sony making something stupid and proprietary that they had complete and total domination over, and Blu-rays do not have blank options because Sony didn't want people being able to use that technology to just copy shit.
I don't remember what the video was, but a guy that talks about like physical media and stuff had a video basically talking about this like giant anti like piracy thing with Sony, where they hated people being able to copy from like CDs so much. I believe they started installing what was basically this like super aggressive malware on to like all of their CDs, and they had to like pay out millions in damages or something like that.
They didn't like that the CD offered freedom, so they tried to create something that was basically like a CD, except Sony would control 100% of it, and it would have all of this nonsense. I forget what it was, but it failed miserably. And Sony's own dumb proprietary shit wasn't working, so they just begrudgingly dealt with CDs. And the DVD was birthed from CD technology, and Sony also hated DVDs for similar reasons. Because you can get blank DVDs for the same reason you can get blank CDs, because it was a non-aggressive technology. And Sony didn't like, what? People can get blanks and make copies of stuff? And they can use our medium as a medium? Oh, fuck that noise. Our licensing is too lax. They literally created the Blu-ray because they own all of it. And this is why you can't get blank Blu-ray discs. They wanted to make something stupid and convoluted to stop copying. And
now I have to sit here and let my magic refill because I wanted to be funny and decided to do this area backwards. Because you can do that with Julius. So, because this boss is weak to electricity and,
so if you're ever going to call Nintendo greedy, regardless of how you feel about Nintendo was, like...
That's why I pointed out the whole, because of them copying, like I said, there's a video...
Even though people often, if you bring up the Sony thing, try to argue, oh, you can't defend Nintendo. Nintendo created proprietary formats for, like, all of their consoles. Nintendo is just as bad, if not worse. Nintendo has proprietary Nintendo bullshit. Even Switch cartridges are proprietary Nintendo bullshit.
Damn it.
Nintendo doesn't want to play nice with other people, so they made their own proprietary bullshit.
There we go. Like it says, especially when you have levels from Gurgoth, Rahab is like, Rahab is a fucking bitch. Except, fucking, everyone technically has proprietary shit. Every company makes proprietary shit now. Okay,
the argument is... Like,
no, I know what the argument is, but then that's also when we get to the portion of the argument no one likes to hear, which is companies wanting to continue to make, like, proprietary anti-consumer, like, DRM and anti-piracy measures if you people would stop fucking stealing shit. if you people would stop stealing their shit, they wouldn't have to put the fucking obnoxious, like, anti-piracy measures in, or whatever the fuck it is this week. But like I said, there's the argument no one wants to hear.
People basically want things to be standardized because people make an argument that, like, oh, Nintendo is proprietary and stubborn, that Nintendo should have just given up and done what everyone else is doing, because people will bring up even Microsoft gave in and basically uses Blu-ray technology.
Well, the funny thing was that, remember, while it was still technically their own proprietary thing, it's like, in the Wii U era, Nintendo was using effectively their own version of Blu-ray. Now, like I said, that would still make it proprietary, but...
No, yes!
But my point is, while it's their own proprietary thing, it is still based off Blu-ray, as opposed to, like, now is the Switch and Switch 2 and stuff, where the cartridges...
Yes, except because Nintendo has always done this, even in the Wii U era, because they basically made their own Blu-ray disc that wasn't a Blu-ray, it still technically cost more because they weren't using Blu-ray production facilities. Whereas Microsoft gave up and just does Blu-ray discs, so Sony technically gets a small commission fee on, like, Blu-rays on an Xbox, but the argument is, oh, by Microsoft doing that, their games can be cheap and sensible because they're using the mass production of Blu-ray. Whereas in the Wii U era, even though Microsoft wasn't doing Blu-rays in the Wii U era, it's still like, oh, Nintendo's proprietary bullshit was still always more money because Nintendo had to have one factory producing these. The quantity was always going to be more expensive because mass production can make prices go down, but Nintendo's over here in the corner doing their own proprietary bullshit. And then people try to argue like, oh, Nintendo prefers proprietary bullshit because they can have complete control over it, and then it's in Nintendo's wheelhouse.
Like I said, companies want proprietary bullshit that they have full control over if you people would stop stealing shit.
Also, because I've said this, even though people act like this is an excuse, even though it's not, people always gloss over why the Switch is proprietary.
Okay, it's the path right up.
People act like the reason the Switch is proprietary isn't a valid reason, and that's just like, oh, you're just a Nintendo fan making up excuses, even though Nintendo was very open on why the Switch basically uses cartridges.
Because using disc in a handheld is fucking stupid. See the PSP for more details.
Yes. They didn't want a disc drive in a handheld console. Because that's more moving parts, and that would...
And that's why I said, see the PSP for more details, fuck, what was the format Sony used for the PSP?
UMD. I think it's called UMD. I'm pretty sure it's UMD. Hold on, let me Google out.
Because
pretty sure it's UMD.
I'm trying to remember what that stood for. Like, I need to remember the way.
UMD.
Okay, now I'm trying to remember the way to go. Oh, I but.
Hold on. Technically, hold on.
Oh wait, the one area was that for the
UMDs might specifically be just the movies, but I can...
Ow.
Oh, actually, it just seems like... Yeah, they... seems like UMD is the format, so UMD movies would be called that because they're on it. Oh, that's why it's a UMD. Yeah.
Alright.
Okay, no, anything on the PSP is a UMD. I found what it's Universal Media Disc.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were pushing for movies.
Yes.
Because you could get movies on a PSP.
Yes.
That's why it's a... Okay, I had it right. It's UMD. I just couldn't remember the acronym. They made a handheld that used discs.
Yeah. As you do. Damn it.
And Nintendo was trying to avoid that shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Universal Media Disc. Nintendo on the Switch was doing proprietary stuff because they were trying to avoid that fucking nonsense. Because they didn't want any kind of disk drive in a machine designed to be portable. Because they were trying to avoid...
Because I find it so funny that because of everyone being like, so anti Nintendo that can point out, you know, Nintendo's like formatting and shit, except apparently because of PSP games technically being disc, but being disc in that like no, wrong character, but because of it being disc in that little like shell thing, apparently because it does technically have to spin like a disc. Years after the fact, a bunch of PSP games are apparently, allegedly, prone basically to not reading. You're like, you motherfuckers want to talk on a console that's literally dying? Apparently PSP games are literally dying. But it's the PSP, so none of you care about it. Because I can't remember, did Sony use that format for the Vita as well, or...
Vita is its own extra thing.
And I am pretty sure it's its own thing.
I'm pretty sure Vita uses cartridges, actually.
Nah, funny.
Pretty sure Vita uses little cartridges.
Ow. Zephyr isn't weak to Holy, it's just the, because of the cross's boomeranging, effect, it's just an easy way to hit him. That only was 13 damage. Oh boy.
They are little cartridges!
Ah, funny.
Cute!
And I'm pretty sure the reason their cartridges is because that, I'm pretty sure that's because even Sony realized that there was an error, was basically...
These things are adorable, holy crap.
Damn it.
Also look a lot like Switch cartridges.
It would be funny if it was like a very similar technology like a decade earlier.
It kinda has to be similar because that's just a logical what.
God damn it.
Vita games are little cartridges, that wasn't crazy.
Because I'm pretty sure by the point of the Vita internally, Sony knew the problem was the UMD format. Damn it.
They're little cartridges. Because making a console that's a handheld with a disk drive is fucking stupid. It is easier to make a handheld using cartridge-esque things. Yeah, someone's showing an image because it's a cartridge. The Vita has a little, like, cartridge flap. You unfold and you push cartridges into it. Doesn't that sound familiar? It's almost like Nintendo was not being evil and greedy, they're just being logical.
Yes.
These are little cartridges. These are straight out little cartridges.
Because, like I said, you know, might as well go through the
These
one.
are cute.
Might as well go through the one room because there's nothing in here. Also, because we've been talking about this for basically the entirety of the recording, I forgot to make the joke I wanted to make of this is supposed to take place after, like, after the, you know, bad ending where Soma becomes the Dark Lord, except Dario and Dimitri are both alive again. How the fuck are they both alive? Shouldn't they be dead?
My point regardless, the Vita is a Sony console that's a handheld that uses little cartridges. Because it seems like even Sony realized a disc format on a...
They probably did because, like I said, apparently... Now, I say apparently because, you know, we don't have, like, any of this firsthand, but again, I find it so funny how it's like all of you people will basically fearmonger about how all this old physical media is like literally dying, and it's like in 30 years, like no PS1 games will, physical PS1 games will work. They will like all be unusable. Emulation is the only way to like save gaming history. Meanwhile, none of you bust like Sony's balls over. Yeah, UMDs are literally dying because a disc that small constantly having to spin is fucking stupid. Is absolutely stupid, terrible design, but no one cares about the PSP, so fucking no one...
I also love how the general overview of a Vita game is proprietary flash memory.
I said everyone uses proprietary.
But on a handheld, a cartridge is just better because there's less moving parts, because you don't need a disk drive.
Because it's also a sort of similar thing to where, like, certain stupid people basically complained about why doesn't the Switch...
Well, there's the other thing about the Vita that I had to double check, which...
What?
No, to be fair, people did kind of bust Sony's balls over it, but we were so far removed. What was the other problem with the Vita?
There were a few problems it had.
Okay, yeah, so what's the big, stinky one?
The back touchscreen?
No, Curzon. Where do you save Vita games?
Oh yeah, the memory stick thing.
What? You know where I'm about to go with this.
Wasn't it that, like, that was their own proprietary bullshit where...
The memory cards for the Vita are proprietary. They look like SD cards, but they're not. You can give all the crap in the world to Nintendo, all you fucking want. The Switch 1 supports...
At least the Switch 1 and, like, the Switch 1 supports, any, microSD card. The Switch 2, while it has to be microSD Express, it's still not proprietary. You just need a microSD Express at that point. Also, because
and remember the kooky thing Nintendo did with the Switch 1? Because they were crazy. They released the Switch 1. Remember the kooky thing they did? Which was like not long after launch.
Which was, why? I can't remember.
What? What did Nintendo target as the maximum microSD card size?
Isn't it like 2 terabytes or
Yeah.
something?
When did a 1 terabyte micro SD card come into existence?
I don't remember.
Like 5 years after the Switch.
Mm.
You can barely find a 2. 3
And
just happened!
Yeah, and the canon isn't there because you can't do the time stop thing. So again, like once you grab Alucard, it is mostly free reign. That is just the only shit you have to do. But because of these games,
Like, my point, Nintendo not only allowed you to use any micro SD card on the Switch, they targeted 2 terabytes before those existed.
I got the game for a minute. Well, the game intends for you to have Alucard because these games are fucking jank and very broken because of their very short dev times. If I remember correctly, there's a glitch, like, much like in the first game, and some of the screen wrapping shit you can do was, Solma, I believe you can do was Julius. It just takes different...
It is still hard to find, like, a 2.
I don't remember which of the DS Castlevania games it was. One of the games I'm... because the pause is a regular pause. I don't remember how you screen wrap was Julius, but I'm pretty sure
I found a 2 terabyte card, and that is, like, super new. Sandisk, I love you. Sandisk Extreme UHS. The sons of bitches did it.
As you do.
No, let's really quantify this. 2 terabyte cards barely came into existence in the past few years. And most of the 2 terabyte cards on the market are fakes. Nintendo future-proofed the Switch far beyond the capacity of SD cards that existed. And the Switch 2 is using microSD Express, but same shit, it can be any microSD Express card.
You brought up the back touchscreen. Something really funny was like the Vita and stuff, and again we have like after basically leaving Sony, like I made a joke about, I love how it seems like because he left, Sony was no longer like adhered to several NDAs and shit, so Shuhei Yoshida just basically kept just kept talking and saying a bunch of shit. Man literally said that the reason the Vita does not have a, like, TV playback function that the original PSP had, it was literally that or the back touchscreen.
Yes.
Never, ever say anything about Nintendo forcing in stupid gimmicks ever again. Sony literally...
I can barely find 2 terabytes.
This shit must be super fucking new.
Yes! They're either fake. I'm gonna trust the SanDisk listing. Especially because this 2 terabytes basically doesn't exist. That is super new. Nintendo future-proofed the Switch 1 so hard, the Switch 2 effectively came out before 2 terabyte micro SD cards were widely...
I'm waiting for my magic to come back, that's why I'm doing this.
I know what you're doing.
I think Yoko has a slightly higher magic refilling rate, which would mean her intelligence stat is decently high. Women, am I right? Oh, another funny thing, because the zombies are so weak, I can actually use them to grind off HP with her for once. It's like I was talking about when you were out of the... Or why is she the one that's attacks drain HP? Why was that not given to Alucard? That would make way more sense for Alucard to have that as an ability. And it's time for Bat Company. I fucking...
Oh, good! That really fancy SanDisk Express card that's 512 gigs. Best Buy has a really good listing for those now. Good!
Ow. Wow, the cross really, like... It really does trivialize this fight, well, mostly. I still don't like this fight because I don't like the erratic way it moves.
Anyway.
And like so, this boss's hitboxes are really funky.
Okay, my petty ass point. You can give Nintendo shit all you want, but while the cartridges are proprietary, Nintendo at least offered you a chance to use an SD card. Versus the PSP, I mean the PS Vita, like back in the day, proprietary games and proprietary memory.
Which is funny because I only ever see people talk about that was the Vita. I never see people. Was that a thing? Was the regular PSP too, or was it just the Vita?
The original PSP had those dumb, longer memory sticks. The Vita does these little SD card looking memory stick things that look a lot more like an actual SD card. They're just not. They're proprietary. Meaning you can't use a Vita unless you get an official Sony memory card or get a, like, rip-off version. And again, say what you will about Nintendo, but Nintendo, at least with the Switch, supports any micro SD card up to 2 terabytes. Which barely exists, by the way. God, it took years to get a 1 TV, let alone a 2. Nintendo future-proofed and then some.
Damn it. The fucking dog sound.
You people give Nintendo crap. Yet, so many people, especially now, are not going to look back. Oh, isn't it bullshit that the Vita had proprietary memory cards, meaning you couldn't even put an SD card in that bitch? Even though people try to argue that Nintendo doesn't allow non-Nintendo branded,
That is literally you people lacking basic reading comprehension.
What do we put in the Switch 1? It's not Nintendo branded.
Yes. They literally specified that it doesn't have to be proprietary. I'm sorry, if you people think that, I can't defend that one.
Okay, what Nintendo does... Now, some people will say that this is Nintendo fear-mongering, but there is a logic to this. While Nintendo basically says you can use anything, they do say, because they partnered with official companies, that if you're putting something in the, like, Switch or the Switch 2, you might want an official thing. Because they guarantee that their partnerships for officially licensed things are going to basically not have any janky bullshit. Which I don't think is unreasonable.
Okay, it's still not on. It's still not open. What was this fucking left? What, the flying armor? Oh, the Allure, Zephyr, Bat Company, Rahab, Puppet Master.
You don't need to do anything proprietary with Nintendo, but Nintendo's partnerships for branded SD cards and shit.
Oh wait, it's the second Dario fight. That's what I'm missing. I need to go up now.
Of course Nintendo would recommend using the SD cards they partnered with. Because of those partnerships are guaranteed to have perfect compatibility. Because they paid for that. But you don't need them. You can use anything.
Going back to save to get my health back, and now I need to remember how to get to the center of the castle. Okay, the funny thing was going back here, the way to the center of the castle, it should be that path lined with all the spikes. Okay, I remember everything now. Don't juggle several search actions at once, you will start mixing them up. If I press stupid buttons, it's because I still think I'm playing a Portrait of Ruin, the infinitely better game.
finishing my point, Sony did proprietary shit and almost nobody cared.
Yeah,
Nintendo has proprietary games, but storage-wise, they allow SD cards, but then we get to, like, the stink that one guy had, which I love that everyone is still on this about... And I still see this, like, the few weirdos doing that other stink that I think is overblown, which is basically like, oh, it doesn't matter if Nintendo allows you to use micro SD cards. We should actually be pissed off at that. Micro SD cards were never intended to be used for game storage. Micro SD cards only last like 30 minutes. Nintendo did this so that all of your precious Switch games would delete themselves in like 30 minutes. Nintendo, of course they're going to allow you to use any SD card. They picked the most volatile form of storage. SD cards were never intended to be used for game storage, because a system is going to write millions of times a second. That will wear out an SD card. If you're using an SD card for game storage, it will not last a year.
I've learned any issues people have with, like, physical storage or whatever, it seems like if you had a problem, it was either you bought some cheap, shady thing off of Amazon, or you were just being stupid. It's almost always you were just being stupid and caused the problem yourself, but no one has the spine to admit that.
Also, technology comes a long way, and growing pains generally get less and less, yet I have seen, because it goes back to the thing I talked about earlier. People like to fearmonger that all this physical media is literally dying because they know if they fearmonger that it will seem like I said, that emulation is like the only way to save video game history, when most of these problems, I'm going to just say it, are not real. Or if they are real, it will literally take like a century to fucking create the problem. Damn it. There we go. Also, because it's just logical. If you're really going to be sort of that crazy about, like, massive SD card failure, which, first of all, is not nearly as bad of a thing. It really, like, massive SD card failure is not nearly as bad or as much of a thing as it really used to be. And second of all, it's like, if you're really going to be that person, because there is some logic in this, just because a lot of people do this anyway, and if you're doing this anyway, why are you bitching? Just make multiple backups across hard drives and, like, cloud storage. And if you're going to bitch about SD cards being volatile and not lasting 30 minutes, and then you're going to tell me that you have, like, multiple hard drives so that you have backups, and you have backups of your backups, and you're paying for, like, every cloud storage solution under the sun, and all of your cloud storage solutions also have backups of your backups of your backups, then I feel like you're just being, like, over dramatic, because having backups regardless is okay. And if you're already backing up crap anyway, you shouldn't really bitch. And yes, technology can fail, but that kind of goes for anything. And as technology improves, failure rates normally become less of a problem, except people are still acting like, oh no, the, like, SD card manufacturers love that we now over-rely on these, because no SD card will last like more than 30 minutes. And that if you have an SD card, it will not last like a year. And that anyone who has an SD card that lasts more than a year is an outlier. And yet, using SD cards in a basic bitch way, we've generally had SD cards last years and years. Because SD cards from a good, trusted brand do not wear down nearly as much as you think they do unless you're one of the people that needs extreme data use, and this extreme data use needs to be incredibly high demanding and incredibly abnormal. And I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but if you're doing like mass amounts of video recording and photography where you are using an SD card and you are doing like thousands of rewrites a second constantly because you're collecting large amounts of high like capacity video and like photos and shit, I'm not saying that your use cases are invalid, and I'm not saying that you're not destroying SD cards left and right, but the fact that you're doing intense video and photo work is kind of an outlier, my dude. Of course that's going to destroy an SD card, but I hate to tell you this, most people are not sitting there and getting thousands of photos every fucking second. Or thousands of hours of 4K video. Most users are not doing that. Most people, if they have like an SD card in their phone, they're probably going to take some like pictures, and even if they're taking 1 or 2 pictures a day, that's a far cry from your job to take thousands of photos. So I will always meet in the middle with extreme use cases.
God, I fucking hate this anime.
Because I understand extreme use cases exist. And super intense stuff can wear things down. But I feel like super intense things, and I really do hate to be this person, that's often more of an outlier problem. And not a problem that the common user will ever generally run into. Because that's a thing. And like a lot of people said, if SD cards were really as unruly and designed to fail as people still fearmonger that they are, most people on average, I feel like, should be buying 2 or 3 SD cards per device per at least, like, if you're really acting like these things are super volatile and only last you like a couple of months or maybe a year, I feel like everyone should be spending at least an average of per device 1 SD card a year or more, and yet all the SD cards we've used have not rapidly deteriorated in the way that people act like they do, and I can tell you why. Because all the SD cards we've ever used are not doing the number of read and writes that would massively deteriorate them, because I keep an SD card in my phone, and I only use it to take photos of games and some other stuff every so often, and because I'm not taking photos super often, it's not going to massively wear down the card.
God damn it, he walked backwards. The strategy of... damn it, wrong on it. The strategy of walking backwards. Never mind, I want the experience.
So yeah, that's kind of my rant, because I've seen a lot of... I would have to find the comment again, but it was someone on a forum about the Mister talking about... Well, okay, it was a forum. Oh, damn it. Fine. It was a Reddit post, so technically it's a subreddit, but that's still technically a forum. And I do agree with it, and I've quoted it before, and I think I've drudged it up in a couple of recordings, and I would have to find it again. Where the main guy who started the Mister Project disabled save state. Damn it. Disabled, like, saving, and made the automatic saving. It is an option, but if you're trying to enable that shit, you often get, like, scary warnings about, like, oh, we'll let you enable automatic saving, but it's like, if you do this, it's like, your SD card might fucking explode. It's time for the question of the day and my overall thoughts on the topic. So, anyway, how many of you basically agree with me that it's somewhat unfair and disingenuous to basically single out Nintendo over proprietary bullshit when most companies do proprietary bullshit? And I also think sometimes proprietary bullshit has a good logical reason, because I personally think having a disk drive in a handheld console is incredibly stupid. I think Nintendo made the best choice for the Switch and the Switch 2, because a disk drive means you need extra moving parts. And let's be real here, if that fails, that is a massive pain in the ass. Plus, Nintendo always builds around children, so having a handheld that's a little bit more child-proof, I do think is a plus. And like I said, Sony basically came to the same conclusion with the Vita. It's only proprietary because they were trying to make a handheld system that basically didn't have a disk drive in it, because that could lead to disaster. A disk drive really is a lot of extra moving parts, and that would complicate a handheld system. So I do think it's best that Nintendo basically didn't do that. That also creates a whole other weird issue if they did put a disk drive in the system, because that would basically mean A, it's a handheld that's accepting a full-sized disc, or B, it would have been a weird format, likely closer in size to a GameCube disc, which could have created its own complications, because they were trying to have a decent amount of storage, and a disc that small would be incredibly hard to actually get a lot of data out of. So I feel like Nintendo did what they needed to, because let's be real here, if they tried to have full-size discs and they actually thought that was fine, all of you would have said that was dumb. Oh, they claim it's a handheld console hybrid, but you basically have these full-size discs that take up like a third of the damn system. My overall point is this: companies are always doing dumb proprietary nonsense, and I feel like we need to give other companies crap for that. If you're going to rail on Nintendo and act like Nintendo doing proprietary bullshit is stupid and should basically be illegal, shit on other companies that are doing that nonsense, because Nintendo at least gives you an option to basically have whatever micro SD card you want, or in the case of the Switch 2, whatever micro SD card express you want. Nintendo basically didn't require proprietary storage. You can use whatever you want as long as it's the correct storage type. So regular Switches use regular microSD cards, and the Switch 2 requires microSD express cards. And personally, I'm happy Nintendo avoided solid state drives because apparently those fuckers get really hot. And putting those in a handheld system would have created a massive heatsink problem, which would have likely required more fans and generally more cost to offset the heating, because apparently those things run incredibly hot. I'm not going to say the technology is inherently bad. It has come a long way, but I do remember people saying those things got way too hot super easily. I also remember at least a couple of years ago people saying that some common solid state drives had a very likely chance to basically burn out and die. Now, the technology improved a lot, and I do think modern solid state drives are safer and less prone to catastrophic failure, but the fact that people were basically trying to use those for high-speed storage, and then they basically said, oh yeah, I used my solid state drive and it basically burned out and killed itself, and that made it seem like these things had a catastrophic failure rate, because a lot of people talked about how they would basically go through solid state drives very commonly, and a lot of solid state drives have a bunch of negative reviews where they basically said like, oh, it lasted 6 months, or oh, it only lasted a year and then it killed itself. Meaning solid state drives were basically catastrophically unstable at some point. And like I was saying, I personally feel Nintendo's decisions are reasonable enough when it comes to the Switch and the Switch 2, because I feel like they did what they needed to in order to create a good logical hybrid console, which I think is a good thing. To basically get back on topic here, my overall point is the fact that a lot of companies do proprietary nonsense. Even if we live in a world now where a lot of technology is no longer proprietary and devices can share similar technology and be fine, I do feel like there is a certain time and place where proprietary technology needs to happen, because certain choices are done not because a company is trying to be evil and greedy, even if that might be a partial driving force. If something is 100% necessary, it will be done, and I do feel like Nintendo basically realized exactly what Sony had realized with the Vita, and I feel like overall Nintendo shouldn't get nearly as much shit for proprietary nonsense when a lot of companies do proprietary nonsense, even if we are starting to shy away from that. And I think proprietary stuff can exist in certain spaces if the reason is logical. Even if people try to argue that it's not, would you really have preferred a disk drive in a Switch or a Switch 2? No, you would not. Nintendo is doing fine, but I am basically rambling, and I got kind of off topic there. You can leave your thoughts, opinions, and answers in the comments, or you can leave them on social media. All of my social media links, as well as my Discord links, are in the video description. Now, as always, I need to be a shill for a minute. If you subscribe to the channel, if you follow me on social media, that really helps our communities grow. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope I will see you all next time. So as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. I hope you come back someday. See you later.